Move over, Doctor Strange. Web away, Spider-Man. Run to your mummy, Flash. This is the multiverse movie we ought to talk about. This is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie had me hooked from the start, knowing that indie horror studio A24 was gonna throw their hat into the ring at creating an action comedy centered around the multiverse, Hollywood's most lucrative trend since the term cinematic universe. Directed by Daniels, as in two people named Daniel, not a singular guy just named Daniels, Everything Everywhere All at Once centers around a failing laundromat owner named Evelyn, who is just having the worst life she feels she could possibly have. Her business is being destroyed by overwhelming taxes, she is on the cusp of a divorce, and her relationship with both her daughter and her father continue to strain. That is, until an alternate universe of her husband takes over the body of her partner, and warns Evelyn that a great evil is about to consume the entire multiverse, and she's the only one that can put a stop to it. By performing a technique known as verse jumping, Evelyn has to do something stupid to trigger her experiencing a new life branch in another universe, and in turn, gaining their memories and skills. The more verse jumping she does, the more skilled she becomes. But sooner or later she learns that this ability comes at an even greater cost, that might bring her closer to this evil than she ever thought she could be. If I am to describe this movie, think of it as the next Doctor Strange meets The Matrix, but with a bit of a self-aware satirical spin. It is absurd, bizarre, and absolutely hilarious. It embraces every aspect of its totally insane premise and downright takes you for a ride of a lifetime. Throughout this wild journey, you will see talking piñatas, sentient rocks, hot dog hands, Bollywood romances, mid-air costume changes, people exploding into confetti, black hole bagels, shoving trophies up your bum, edible lip balm, wheelchair mech suits, dogs as weapons, deconstructions of the film Ratatouille, and so much more. But of course, any movie can just shove random nonsense on a screen. That doesn't mean a movie is good. Because while this movie is unapologetically hilarious with moments that will spit out your drink laughing, it is just genuinely so well crafted. It is beautifully shot, the cinematography is very stark, very distinct, and is just as unapologetic with how it is shot as the writing. It is a beautiful movie to look at. And when it gets to the action, it is incredibly well choreographed. My jaw was on the floor with how creative the fighting is in this movie. There's very little reliance on CGI with most of these scenes, just really clever editing, camera work, lighting, and practical effects. It all feels very tactile, which adds to the humor at many points. Anyone can use a CGI dog as a literal weapon, but it feels almost uncomfortably cruel to have it squirming around in pain. The movie, in a self-aware twist, uses an unmoving, rigid plastic model, and it's very clear it's an unmoving plastic model, which basically gives us permission to laugh even more, because we know the dog isn't real. But most importantly, like any good movie should, it perfectly grounds everything with a strong emotional core. The movie knows just when, how, and where to return to relative reality and focus on the core familial and emotional conflict of Evelyn trying to get her life together. And it all weaves together brilliantly, like a fine quilt, contrasting the broad, massive scope of the entire multiverse on the line with the very personal stakes. All to pose a question that in this massive, infinite realm of possibilities where we all feel so small, what is it that we have which will make us feel any sense of meaning? What really matters in a reality where scientifically nothing matters? What makes life worth living? What makes life worth smiling about? What makes our losses all the sweeter in our triumphs? This question about reality and existence and philosophy, with all this talk about insta-learning kung fu skills in a world where anything can happen, no doubt can raise comparisons especially to The Matrix. And while that first movie is still a hallmark of cinema for how it changed the industry, I feel like this movie raises these questions better. Especially more than the sequels, at least in my opinion. Because the absurdity, the spectacle, and the philosophy of Everything Everywhere All at Once does not ever, for once, overshadow the most important part of any movie, the characters. While The Matrix, while visually stimulating and thematically rich, just has really dull, boring, emotionless characters that make everything feel numb and contrived. While here, you like these people, and there's always more sides to them that are uncovered throughout this movie. I couldn't care a lick about Neo, but I do love Evelyn. But I'm getting sidetracked. You could tell that Matrix Resurrections kind of broke me. But if there's one problem with this movie, it is the pacing. This movie is not technically very long, but it feels long. Very long. This movie is so dense and splits it up into chapters a la the Snyder Cut of Justice League. You are covering so much ground, and it feels like it kind of goes on for an eternity. It's an awesome eternity, but it can get quite self-indulgent with the time it has. The Batman is 3 hours long and it felt like 2. The Snyder Cut is 4 hours long and it felt like 3. This is a 2-hour-long movie that feels like 4. But that's just a problem in the sea of many, many positives. I know this movie came out the same day as Sonic, and I'm sure everyone viewing this has that as a priority. as it should be, of course. But please, I beg of you, don't let this movie slip by you. I guarantee none of these big budget multiverse movies, while I am excited for them, so excited, will probably never hold a candle to the incredible artistry on display here. This so far is my favorite film of the year, and it's going to take a lot for any movie to top it. So, Everything Everywhere All at Once has transcended to a
dismal, crazy, apocalyptic, smoking sexy style.
My god, this movie, it's every rating, all at once! What just happened? I think I blanked out for a moment there. Like and subscribe and all that. I really don't know where I am right now.